The prospect of Paulo Fonseca becoming West Ham's new manager, I've got to be honest, is growing on me. Now, I don't know if that's because I found out a little bit more about him, because perhaps some of the other candidates that I did want have fallen by the wayside. Perhaps it's because somebody worse than Fonseca's been dangled in front of us in the form of Lopetegui, and we didn't actually want that. However, I like to think it's because the more I found out about him, the more I actually like. And my reservations of him before are becoming less and less relevant because of what he's achieving this season. I was always worried about Fonseca's record being, I guess, inflated by his time at Shakhtar Donetsk, which of course is just an easy league for any half-competent coach to win. Basically, you get that job, you win trophies. They are so much better. They're basically the Paris Saint-Germain of Ukrainian football. So I felt his win record had been inflated. However, what he's done this season has been really quite impressive. Now, as I record this video, Lille have just beaten Metz. Obviously, Fonseca is manager of Lille, to go third in Ligue 1, which is obviously the French Ligue 1. Ligue 1, let's put it that way. Third significant because third is Champions League places. Now, it does make it less likely that we'd get him, because obviously with the prospect of Champions League football next season, his club Lille will do everything that they can to try and persuade him to stay. However, he is out of contract at the end of the season. They have gone third behind second place Monaco. PSG has sort of way gone, as you would expect. They just lost. They lost quite a closely contested game, actually, to Monaco on the game before this as well. So I think I would suggest they're up there on merit. They really have been. Well, why wouldn't you be? Near the end of the season, of course you're there on merit. I think there's only 3 games left after this one, the 2-1 victory against Metz. I've watched both games. I watched a lot of the Monaco game, and I watched bits and pieces of the Lille versus Metz game. I like the way they play. I think that sort of won me over. I think the fact that he's been able to contest a league, which is, whilst first place is, you've almost got to rule it out because PSG, because of the money, because of the way they are. And it's not really a competitive league in terms of first place, but thereafter there are some decent teams in there, and I think what they've done has been very, very impressive. In fact, if you look at what Will Still has done at Stade de Reims, then you've only got to be more impressed with what Fonseca has done, albeit on a bigger budget, of course. I think what really impressed me about Fonseca as much as anything was not just his style of play, but as I've started to learn a little bit more, somebody shared a video in our Hammers Chat Patreon WhatsApp group. And it was an interview that Fonseca had done, I think it was at the start of this season. So whatever, 7-8 months ago, whenever that might have been. And he was asked about using young players. And he was talking predominantly about Lille, and he said, I will always try and use young players. He said, for me, it doesn't matter whether a player is 16. It doesn't matter about a player's age. I'll play him if he's good enough. Now, this is a platitude that is trotted out by a lot of managers. I bet if you pinned David Moyes down and asked David Moyes whether he'd play a 16-year-old if he was good enough, he'd say yes, because he's done exactly that with Wayne Rooney. But I'm not talking about the very most exceptional ones. I'm talking about giving people a chance. They might not look like world beaters like Rooney did, but are you going to give them a chance? Are you going to run in the first team? Are you going to let them find out if they are good enough? And Fonseca has got a really, really good record of doing that. In fact, I really liked what he said in that interview. When he was asked about playing youngsters, he said, well, look, first of all, I want to find out what the ethos of the club is. He said that Lille's owners had been very honest with him, that what they'd done is they had told him that to play attractive football, to give the supporters reasons to come back and watch the games, but also if they could he promote players from the youth team. He said, that's my job. He said, it's part of my job to promote youth players. He said, that's what I've been told to do, and that's what I do. Now, I'm not suggesting for a moment that he's not going to play some senior players, but this is in stark contrast to some of the other managers that we've been linked with who are maybe a little bit more confrontational. I mean, this is a man who's pretty much saying, look, I do what I'm told. That's very different to what we were hearing about Lopetegui, for instance, who was actively calling out the owners Wolverhampton Wanderers had a falling out with the people at Real Madrid, had a falling out with the Spanish national team. We're dealing with a very, very different personality here. And I like what I'm hearing, I like what I've seen from him, but things are a little bit more complicated at West Ham at the moment, and this is not something that is going to be solved easily. What I'm talking about, obviously, is David Moyes' replacement, because I don't think David Moyes has given up on his West Ham job just yet. We'll cover that in just a second. Before I do, can I please show off my shaver? Can I show you my trimmer? Show you me clippers? Because I'll tell you what I've got here. Well, it's not in this box anymore, because this is a Manscaped Lawn Mower 5. And the great thing is, we are giving you 20% off plus free shipping on all Manscaped products. I know I've said it before, but I'll say it again. This Manscaped stuff is just the best male grooming gear that you could possibly get. This thing's got a torch. Absolutely magnificent. Look, torch. But let's see what's also good about this. It's got ceramic blades, because this is the Lawnmower 5.0. Ceramic blades are better than metal blades because they don't pinch and cut your skin. Extra special about this thing is you can use it in the shower. Now, using it in the shower is obviously not something you would normally do with a piece of electrical equipment. Quite right too. But on this bit of kit, it's the right thing to do, so you can take it in the shower, get yourself all trimmed up, and leave yourself all spick and span. It's not the only good product that they do, by the way. My favourite bit of the Manscaped products, our favourite bit of kit that they do, is the shaver. It's absolutely brilliant. You know, like when you go to the hairdressers and you say, oh, can I have a grade 2 or can I have a grade 1? This thing has got an adjustable head on the top, and we all like an adjustable head, don't we? And that allows you to decide what length your beard's going to be, what length your moustache is going to be. It is absolutely brilliant. I've got the weed whacker, I have got the beard trimmer, I've got the lotion, I've got the boxer shorts. Everything they do is top quality. Go and check it out. The link's in the description below. That's Manscaped. Link's in the description below. Here's your discount code, HammersChat20, all one word. 20% off plus your free shipping. Go and have a look. Right, David Moyes. I felt that David Moyes was being a little bit coy. He was being a little bit funny. He was trying to make a joke about Jurgen Klopp. He did make a joke about Jurgen Klopp. He said he'd be pleased to see the back of Jurgen Klopp. Something about having big white teeth or something like that. Didn't matter. He was only having a laugh. What was interesting, he said he'd be pleased to see the back of him. That indicates he's going to stick around. I'm not necessarily sure that means with West Ham. But make no mistake about it. Everything is up in the air now. There is still a situation where David Moyes can stay as West Ham manager, but I think it would need a miracle. I really do. I've never wanted to place any money on it. I've always suspected he would go at the end of the season. Now I would place money on him going. I really do think he will. Lopetegui has decided that he is not interested in the West Ham job. Listen, this is a massive case of jump before you're pushed with this guy. Absolutely. Look, he wasn't going to get offered the job. He'd sort of leaked, or the Italian media had leaked that he's going to AC Milan now, and he's turned down a contract offer from West Ham. Look, West Ham were quite clear yesterday. They came out and they basically leaked the news from an unknown source that there was no contract has been offered to him at all. Look, here's what I understand to be the case. Lopetegui has met with people from West Ham. He presented his vision. He presented what he thought was the way forward for West Ham and how he saw the future with them. I understand some people at the club were quite impressed with what he had to say, but he was not offered the contract. Lopetegui would have absolutely known that during the last few days he'd gone from favourite to get the job. Well, he'd gone from second favourite to favourite, and now he's back down to second favourite, and he's dropping fast like a stone. He wanted the West Ham job. That's why he was still living in England. His house is in England. At the point where he probably knew he wasn't going to get the job, that was the point. He said, you know what, I'll take the Milan job. And that was the job he'd turned down last week. So I find this good news. And I know there's a lot of people who probably think about it a lot more than I do and know a lot more about Lopetegui than I do. I think there's a lot of people who are quite pleased that he's not going to take the West Ham job, but he's taking the Milan job. This is good news. And for the reasons I've already expressed earlier in this video, I would prefer Fonseca. A little word on Ruben Amorim, actually, because he did do his press conference and he apologised for the timing of going to meet West Ham. But that was it. He didn't say he wasn't going to leave. I thought it was a pretty... I thought he'd be better off not doing an apology for him, actually, because I don't think he ultimately said what the Sporting Lisbon fans would have wanted to hear, which was, I'm not leaving. He didn't actually say that. it was quite clear what happened. It was something that we were quite consistent on this channel. That was the meeting with West Ham was driven from his side. He basically was he was flirting with West Ham in an attempt to try and get Liverpool to make an offer for him. It didn't work. They've gone for Arne Slot. Rightly so too, because that's who they deem to be the best choice. He's been left looking a little bit silly. He's not only unpopular with Liverpool, because not only did he try and force their hand, he was adamant and demanded that he wanted 10 million euros a year after tax. Oh, that's the rumour anyway. I'd imagine he's certainly probably unpopular with West Ham, because he's made West Ham look a bit silly, and he's wasted our club's time as well. And he's made himself look a little bit silly with the Sporting Lisbon fans. He went there with his advisor. I would probably humbly suggest that his advisor gives him pretty crappy advice, and maybe he wants to look at changing his advisor, because if that's the advice you get in and that's how it's turned out, then it ain't looked too clever, because actually it's turned out you haven't got any job, and now you're still back at Sporting Lisbon, which he's probably perfectly happy about, but the Sporting Lisbon fans are not particularly happy with the way he has conducted himself. There are other names in the frame for the West Ham job, but the club are adamant nobody has been offered a contract yet. And you know what? I believe them. But I also believe that includes David Moyes. I don't think David Moyes has been offered a contract. I don't believe Amorim was offered a contract. I think they probably would have done if Amorim would have shown interest. But I think that it was probably pretty obvious by the length of time that he was over for the meeting, flew back on the plane. I'd imagine that everybody was quite clear what he was up to. But look, we called it on the day on this channel. That's what we said was probably happening here. I think Fonseca probably is the number one choice at the moment, but these things change. Okay, we've had 3-4 different number one choices in the past few days, haven't we? So these things can change pretty quickly. And I think the one thing that we've got in our favour in terms of Fonseca taking over at West Ham, even though it looks like Lille could possibly get Champions League football, and that's something that would interest him, they don't have much money to spend. They can't really reinforce. And I don't know how money-driven Fonseca is, but at least at West Ham, we could offer him one of the biggest budgets in European football. There is no doubt about that. That's quite clear. We're incredibly solvent due to the last year's figures as well. So he can have a spend up. He can do the youth players. He can give the Premier League a really good go. I also feel that the league would be appealing to him. He's obviously done Portuguese league, he's done the Ukrainian league, he's done French league, he's been at Roma and done Serie A. I would imagine it would appeal to him to come and have a go. And he's also been interviewed before. He's been interviewed by Tottenham and by West Ham in the past. So you feel it's likely to happen. It's amazing. I've sort of changed my mind on it, actually, to the point where I think at the moment he is somebody that I would want. Do I think he's the best option? No, I don't. But having looked at some of the options, I'll say this much. He's far from the worst. And when you look at his ethos in terms of playing style, and I've watched his team play. I've watched his team play in the last 2 games. When you look at his playing style, you look at his ethos, you look at the way he plays, you look at how he would treat some of our young players, some of the hugely talented youth players that we've got in the setup, and he'd give them a chance. I think he probably matches what a lot of West Ham fans would want to see in our next manager.